Hello and welcome. I am always excited when we have another opportunity to share together and think about it. Today, we're going to deal with a word that is uncomfortable for a lot of us, and yet it's important to at least understand. Grief. Grief. It's not a word we want to think about. It's not a word that elicits joy in us, but it's something all of us go through. And so often we only associate grief with death. And though that is a major portion and part and reasons for grief, that's not the only thing that elicits grief. Grief is the response to any loss. It could be the loss of a loved one. It could be the loss of a job. It could be the loss of good health. It can be the loss of anything that you love and have bonded with. The problem is that because, and especially Christians, that we know so little about grief, we can handle it so poorly that the process is either longer than it has to be, or it doesn't provide us with the healing that grief can give. So grief, let's separate it from mourning, grief and mourning. Grief is what you feel on the inside. It's your feelings, and the things you think inwardly. That's grief. Now, mourning is, for instance, the service for your loved one, because that's the outer expression based on how you feel. So we have a service of celebration. That's mourning. But grief is about what you feel and what you think on the inside. How do you handle loss? It's important for you to be open and honest with yourself, because as Christians, to go through a grieving period and then it not be successful in your healing, that could be very detrimental. Now, there is no manual that says there's a perfect way to grieve, but it is a process. But listen to what Psalms 34:18 tells us. It says, "The Lord is nigh unto them," which means near, "that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit." Now, I want to read that from New Living Translation. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed." Ever been there? Have you ever been in that place where it just seems like nothing gives you comfort? It's important to know that God draws nigh to you during those situations. God is compassionate. He's concerned with how you feel. You can go to him with how you really feel. One of the things I love about talking to God is I don't have to try to find a special way to do it. I can talk to him in any manner in which I find myself, joyfully, upset, afraid, doesn't matter. You can talk to God. And it's very comforting for me to know that when I'm going through some of my toughest times, whatever that grief may be over, is that I have a true and living God who cares enough about me to allow me to vent, to scream, to cry. Grieving is a natural process for loss. One of the dangerous things that we do, and especially as children of God, because so many of us think that we should never be in those places. But that's where life can take you. I don't care how saved you are. But the truth of the matter is that when you're trying to be strong for everybody, when you just simply refuse to grieve because you're putting everybody's grief on your shoulders, that's very unhealthy. That's not a natural grieving process. Grief is a natural process. It's a natural part of healing when you suffer loss, especially in death and the loss of a loved one. So please, do some homework on your own about grief and grieving, all right? Because Christians mishandle that in such a way that it can be so detrimental to your physical, emotional, and psychological health. But it is good to know that God is with us in our darkest times. Don't run from grief. Embrace it. It's your friend when you're hurting. At least think about it.